Before we get to the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it to that uncle who's a communist. And if he isn't, he will be.
Don't forget to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionaryrhetoric. And Revolutionary Rhetoric is an affiliate of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network.
All right, let's get to the video.
Hello and welcome back. Episode 41.
Episode 41.
Well, we did it. We promised.
Woo.
We finally are going to deliver on international news, no domestic news.
I mean, it was just a nice break.
It was a nice break. It was a whirlwind of just a bunch of bullshit happening in American politics, and now it's over. There was a couple things happen. Like, did you see Trump go before the what is it? The NABJ? It's like the National Association of Black Journalists.
Yeah, I saw that.
And there's nothing really substantive there. It's just pretty funny because to watch him get smoked by like
the illegal aliens are gonna come and take black jobs.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. I
don't know what their strategy there was. Maybe they tried to leer over some black African American voters.
I think that was Trump's position, but I mean, like,
yeah, good luck with that one.
They were like, I don't know. Go Google some of the videos. Yeah. It's David Pakman's kind of a lib, but he did like a full breakdown. He made a bunch of different videos about like the different segments of that. So if you're looking for just like the quickly digestible versions of it, David Pakman did it. I'm sure others did. That's where actually I watched most of them because I didn't watch. If you want to
watch the full one, you can go. Hasanabi actually did it.
Really did he do it? Okay, I assume other more leftist people did one. I'm still subscribed to David Pakman for whatever reason, and his videos pop up on my feed a lot.
I hate that guy, man.
I do too now. He's gone full like Harris.
Yeah, he used to be like a sock dem.
Yeah, he used to be like fairly leftist. Like a few years ago, he got his name kind of like debating right wing guys, and he was on like with what's his name, Rubin, and he went on with that it's that crazy black dude. He's bald. The Messiah.
Yeah.
That guy. You know, talk about what the hell is his name?
What's his name? Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. He just says like random. I don't know. He was like kind of like an Andrew Tate, like red-pilled weird.
Dude, the guy's like literally stupid.
He's a fucking. He's the dumbest dude in the world. Anyway, there's a very funny There's a very funny interview where he goes on. David Pakman goes on his show and just kind of trolls him the whole time. And this was like years and years ago.
Yeah. No,
so like, I think David Pakman used to kind of be more, but he's gotten really big. He's now up to like 2.5-3 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's kind of more of a mainstream, Democrat kind of shill. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about David Pakman so much. Whatever.
Dude, what was that guy's name?
I don't know. I can't remember his name.
Oh my
Messiah.
God.
You know Trump's a Messiah, right? That's what he kept asking people. Oh my God! Hold on. We're gonna pause for a second.
We're gonna pause. I gotta find this guy. This guy's hilarious. It's not like it's hilarious.
You gotta put his clip, a clip of just him yelling Messiah, because he kept calling Obama the Antichrist and stuff. Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yes.
Jesse Lee Peterson, dude. What the fuck? Is that guy still? Is he still around?
I don't know.
He's 75 years old.
Holy shit! He looks good for his age.
He's 6'5". Good on him, man.
Dude, so Jesse Lee Peterson. The guy has an IQ of a goldfish. I don't know how the fuck he got like a major
I don't know. He's a radio host. I don't really know his whole deal. I don't know why he got famous, but yeah, he generally feels like he's just like very dumb. But
it's so dumb that it's funny. And
he was just on the Ethan Klein.
It was fairly recent,
off the rails H3 podcast. Yeah, no, it was in February of this year. It was just a couple months ago.
Yeah. No, he got absolutely trolled. Like this guy's like, being gay is a sin,
He's just such a weirdo.
They're trying to make us all women. Like it's basically Alex Jones, but with like 30 less.
He calls everybody beta males. Yeah,
beta males,
beta
alpha
male?
males.
Cucks, dude. I don't know. It's like I said, he's just very like Andrew Tate red-tilled kind of guy, but he's a 75-year-old man, and it's like, dude, you're way too old to be talking like this. Anyway,
it's genuinely funny.
It's pretty funny. Go Google scenes of Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah, reactions to Jesse Lee Peterson.
Pretty funny.
It's great. But anyways, let's get to the meat of the show.
Like we said, international news, and what that really means is Palestine updates.
For the most part, because that's what's really going on
I guess
now.
These are Iranian updates, because the first kind of half of this show we're going to talk about today is just this ongoing beef between Iran and occupied Palestine, Israel. So on Tuesday, Israel bombed Beirut. 5 civilians were killed, including 1 woman and 2 children. And it's now been, I think, widely reported that the Hezbollah leader, Faoud Shakur,
Yeah, but that's pretty.
I think I got close enough.
Yeah.
He was dead as well. So that's a pretty big blow to Hezbollah. Their kind of top commander is killed with this. I believe it was an airstrike
Yeah.
in Beirut. You good? No. So then on Wednesday, yesterday, Israel. This is unrelated, actually. This is not a retaliation. I think the news kind of like framed this as retaliation or as just like another attack. But Israel assassinated the Hamas's top leader. Oh, we don't have his name.
Ishmael Haniyeh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
Ishmael
Haniyeh.
Haniyeh. Yeah.
So Israel assassinates Ishmael Haniyeh. The Hamas's. I think it's his top.
He's considered like a political leader.
Yeah, he was like their like political division leader. He's not like a military commander.
No,
he's more like their.
He's like a negotiations kind of guy,
like a PR kind of guy.
Yeah,
I think he was one of the ones that was having a larger deal in the ceasefire negotiations. Like he was kind of more of like almost like a diplomat more than anything.
Correct. He was based in Doha at the time.
Yeah.
But so if we're looking at it from a strategic point, like why Israel would do something like this is because this guy was at the forefront of creating a peace deal.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you assassinate your guy that's doing the peace deal, they have to like regroup and find somebody else to like renegotiate, basically.
Sure. Yeah, and there was a lot of reports came out initially that he was bombed, like airstriked. He was at a guest house, I think in like. It's he was in
Tehran.
He was in Tehran. It was in like a guest house basically. He was a guest in Tehran. He was there to I think it was the inauguration ceremony for the new Iranian president is when he was there. But it was actually later determined that it wasn't an airstrike. It was a bomb had been planted in that guest house like months prior. I think up to 2 months prior to this, and that it was a remote detonated bomb, and they were just waiting for him to show back up to his this was like his second home in Tehran. He's a Palestinian, and he has like a second home in Tehran. And then when he finally showed up, they detonated the bomb and killed him.
This is very important, this distinction, whether it was an airstrike or whether it was a bomb that was planted in the guest house. One, because that means there was a physical presence of a Israeli character in
like
Iran.
Like an Israeli agent, like state agent, was in Iran. Someone had to plant the bomb.
Somebody had to go infiltrate into Iran, right, to plant this. And he had to go buy the cards. He had to get around the entire royal guard, the Revolutionary Guard, of Iran. And he had to physically plant it. So that is, on an international scale, that is a lot more threatening.
It's a lot more serious.
A lot more serious than just an airstrike.
Just an airstrike, yeah. I mean that involves like covert espionage acts, that foreign agents operating within your government, getting through your security. There's a lot more than just a drone airstrike, right? So there's a lot more. It's not like a drone strike isn't premeditated, but there just feels like there's a lot more premeditation and a lot more like intention with a planted assassin's
physical
bomb.
Body go into the country.
It's a much more violation. And so here's a quote from CNN. Also, a quick aside, we had a question once about like being a little more transparent with our sources. And for the record, everything we say on this podcast, we do find like either at least like 2 sources for. We're not really big on like speculation and supposition. If we talk about it, it's pretty much been like,
if we're gonna state something as fact, it's gonna come from a credited source.
Yeah, it's gonna come from a credited source. And I mean, like, credited source, you may have your own opinions on like news outlets like CNN or whatever, but I mean, like, we use Al Jazeera a lot, we use CNN, we use AP, we use Reuters, and we'll use whatever as long as we can find a couple different reports of it. And so, for instance, we double check and we cross-reference these things. Like, we know that the original report said that this assassination was from an airstrike. Well, we now know that was incorrect, and it's actually from a bomb, because I read like 7 articles about the same story. And that's usually what I'll do. If we tackle a story, I'll go through and I'll Google it, and I'll read every article I can find about it. I take notes on it, and I look for those discrepancies, and I kind of try to find, well, this one's saying airstrike, this one's saying bomb, which one is it? And then that's,
you look at the dates.
How did it
change?
Like, I think I read a CNN article, and it said only three civilians had been killed, including or 3 civilians have been killed and Fouad Shakur in the Beirut bombing. But then I read another article, and it says 5 civilians. So it's like, these things get updated. So anyway, we'll do better about naming our sources, but just know that if we forget to, you can always ask us, A, or B, just know that I take like hours ahead of each episode to
Yeah.
kind of like vet these stories and just double check that our facts are wrong. And sometimes we get facts wrong just if we misspeak or if we go off of information that is widely recognized. Like if we had reported a couple days ago, we would have said it was an airstrike, but now we know that it's not. So just bear with us.
Yeah. So we're taking also information. Bear with us that we're taking information that we're finding at that moment right before the podcast to make sure we have the most up to date. By the time you hear it 4 days later, 3 days later, it might not be 100%
Things have changed,
accurate.
yeah.
And we will, we'll let you know in the next episode if something changed.
Yep. Anyway, this is from CNN for what it's worth. This is all a quote from CNN. Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said Wednesday, quote, "You killed our dear guest in our house and now have paved the way for your harsh punishment," end quote. And this has been said as a blow to Hamas. Khamenei's death is both strategically and symbolically a dramatic blow to Hamas, eliminating the most public figure who headed up the group's political operations while living overseas. The only reason I wanted to quote that piece from CNN specifically is because this, as Kanan just kind of alluded to, this is a different beast altogether than just another airstrike. This is like covert operations on foreign soil. So now Iran is actually pissed, and they've kind of said, the quote from the leader, the religious leader in Iran was, "You have paved the way for your harsh punishment." So I don't know. We'll see kind of what retaliation. I mean, and out of the time of recording, 6:50 on Thursday, August 1st, Hezbollah has just fired a rocket barrage into Israel territory about like an hour and a half ago as of time of recording.
Yeah.
So there already are retaliations. Now, of that rocket barrage, only 5 missiles are reported to have like gotten through into Israeli territory. And of those 5, there's been no. I think they just kind of hit in like the middle of nowhere. Like there's no damage or injuries to speak of.
And I mean, you really can't hate on the the Hezbollah group for doing this. You can't hate on Iran for trying to retaliate. Imagine if somebody bombed Tel Aviv, like a drastic bombing. That's what they did to Beirut. They killed Israeli citizens. Imagine that an Irani individual went into Israel, planted a bomb for the American diplomat that is in Israel, and killed him or her. So it's like you would be infuriated too, but you can't be twisting this to Iran is about to, now they're gonna say, Iran attacks Israel without
every
provocation.
That's what every headline was from today, like this unprovoked attack from Hezbollah, and it's just like, dude, my brother in Christ.
Who are you lying to?
There have been 2 attacks on Iran this week. Well, 1, I guess, but it's just and also it's all a little surprising too that Iran has been this kind of like docile about it, for lack of a better term. Like they've been bombed multiple times. This is now not their only assassination. Remember the 2 Iranian officials in Syria were assassinated last month, or maybe it was late June, whenever they were. So like Israel has targeted Iran both in and out of Iran. They've killed Iranian officials in Syria. They've now killed Hezbollah commander in Beirut. And then now attacks on foreign nationals within their border too. Like, I mean, imagine if we were hosting like, I don't know, a Chinese diplomat or something. Yeah. And like, this is a random example, but like if Russia assassinated a Chinese diplomat while in America, like that would be a bad look on us, right? Yeah. So a foreign national, a Palestinian, was murdered in Iranian soil. Like, what's Iran going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like, well, that's kind of yet to be seen. What they're going to be seeing.
What Iran is doing is the intelligent approach. It's the mature approach, because they're not trying to start an all-out world war. Yeah. And Iran is just poking the bear. Not Iran, but sorry, Israel is just poking the bear. And it's just one of these days, it's like eventually they have to actually retaliate. Yeah. And then Israel's going to cry wolf.
Well, they already have. Israel just released a statement saying that if Iran does anything like kind of unprovoked, then they will...
unprovoked.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't use the word unprovoked, but that was kind of the implication. I'll pull up the exact quote, but Israel just came out and said that if Iran tries anything, then it'll be a full-scale war. Like right now, we're not at war. But if you wanna go that route, we will like go into a full-scale war mode, is what Israel just said to Iran, which is like fucking once again. I mean, Israel is the king of gaslighting, but this is just gaslighting at the highest order again. Of like, we'll bomb you repeatedly, kill your people in Lebanon. Now that was I misspoke a minute ago. I said Iran's been struck twice. It was Beirut and then Tehran, Beirut, Lebanon, Tehran, Iran.
Damascus.
Well, what? No.
They struck in Damascus.
Oh, they did strike in Damascus. That was
Yeah.
in the
That was a while ago.
So they've
though.
struck in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, and then now a Hamas official killed in Iran. So it's just, how many more blows can you take before you
How many more countries do you have to bomb until you're not the perpetrator?
Yeah. And like this is all very reminiscent of like, that war, was it the 7 days war, 6 days war or whatever, where
Yeah.
like all of these Arab countries, a lot of these countries included, but also like Iran and Lebanon aren't really, as far as I understand, not super close militarily. But and this leads to a bigger question. I was kind of thinking about this earlier today on my commute home. I was like, these are the conditions, and I'm not like a global geopolitical like strategist, but like these seem to be the conditions of something that could spark a world war. Because if you have if you have Iran and Israel kind of moving into this posturing between like a full scale war, they've kind of been taking shots at each other. It's only going to take one group of civilians being killed, the right politician to say the right thing at once. Whatever the catalyst is, there's going to be some straw that breaks the camel's back, which does lead these to full scale war. And then I was thinking, well, who would come to their aid, right? If we are thinking in terms of like global war, who's ally? So for the Israel, it's obviously a lot of the Western powers, notably America, France, England, whatever. And then I was thinking, well, who would come and back up Iran? Russia. And then that was immediately it's Russia. And now you have Russia as a proxy on Iran's side, and you have America as a proxy on Israel's side, and then you have a few of the Arab countries getting in the mix, if Lebanon and Syria kind of decide to kind of throw down a little bit, and then, I don't know, China maybe supplying arms to Iran or whatever, right? And then America declares war on China because
Yemen
of, like,
is involved too.
Yeah, Yemen's going to get in there a little bit. So like you got Houthi brigades, and I don't know. I was like thinking like, how can this spiral? Like worst case scenario, what is the worst possible outcome? What is the worst case scenario of all of these countries kind of posturing and having this kind of dick measuring contest?
Iran does an actual, well, I wouldn't say a full-on invasion, but like a full-on actual military
like a ground,
strike. Where like the Iron Dome doesn't make a difference at this point.
Like a coordinated heavy like artillery barrage or something. Yeah.
With Iran's military being in like
not
Golan
Hezbollah,
Heights,
but like
like in Golan Heights, in Syria, in the edge of Iraq, and like literally like full on bombarding them.
Yeah.
And then Israel declares war, attacks them. America comes in, and then Russia comes in to fight. And that's a world war right there. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so like we kind of like, I don't know. These things don't feel, or they're never something until there's something, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't know the day before Pearl Harbor, December 6th was just any other Saturday. Whenever Franz Ferdinand was shot, Gavrilo Princip, the day before he shot him, I don't know what day that was. Whatever. The day before was just another day. Like, right? You don't know these things are happening until they're happening. So all it takes is one little thing. And if you study history long enough, you notice that like you'll kind of notice the pattern of these huge events. If you start drilling down, and obviously that's like kind of reductionist to say that the assassination of Franz Ferdinand caused World War I. That's what you're taught in like middle school, but obviously there's a lot more to it than that. There's like
it's a 10-minute drive from my hometown, from my house.
Oh, in Sarajevo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a footprint where he stood when he shot the fucker.
When he just capped him and his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that I mean, like, it's a little like simplistic to say that that's the reason for World War I. But I mean, we can just be simplistic for the sake of this argument of like these things for America's involvement in World War in World War II, Europe's involvement in World War I. These kind of global conflicts are all started by kind of minor things, wasn't it? I mean, it was John Brown killed like 3 guys in Kansas, and that sparked the American Civil War. What was it? George Washington like killed a couple French at a fort, and that sparked the 7 year, or no, that sparked the American involvement in the French and Indian War, which is part of the 7 Years' War. That I'm not a huge expert on the 7 Years' War, so let me retract that one because I'm not actually sure how that started in England or in Europe rather. I'll have to dig into that. My point is that these things are they don't feel monumental until you're looking back on it with hindsight. And I know that's not some huge like novel take, but I'm just saying like these are the things, if you study history long enough, it's like you start to notice these patterns. And this is one of those moments where like if something were to just happen, that's it. It's now happened. And then now 5 years from now, we're looking back on this global war and we're like, oh, these are the events that unfolded. You have these system of alliances. You have Russia backing Iran. America refusing to not support Israel, right? Because it'd be very easy for America just to say, if Israel invaded Iran, or Iran invaded Israel and then Israel struck back in Iran, it would be very easy for President Harris or President Trump to just say, that's an Israeli problem. We're not going to be involved with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to send troops that, but it would be very easy and very expected of them to say, we will send troops. The United Nations will get involved. NATO will, defend against Russia and aggression to Iran.
If they call on NATO to do something like that.
Well, if Russia got involved, that would be the perfect example, right? That would be.
But like Turkey is not a fan of Israel at all.
Yeah.
So they would not, and then that might break alliances. They might literally switch alliances last second.
Yeah.
And so it's complex, but
It's all speculation.
It really
too.
just takes one spontaneous moment
Yeah.
and provocation, like what Israel is doing right now. And that's why I keep saying they keep poking the bear. You might poke the bear, and they might the bear might ignore you a few times. But on the fifth poke, the bear is just gonna tear you up, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Is like if Iran really strikes back, like listen, Iran is a powerful nation. They've got like 90 million people, modern technology, modern warfare. I don't care what Israel has. Like, they're not going to be able to. You were able to sustain in a 7 days war against Jordan, and Lebanon, and these countries were
10
just
years
newly
after
formed.
they got their independence from British occupied.
They're just newly formed. They don't have like
Yeah.
proper military. Iran is a whole different. If you try to invade Iran, it would be like 50 times Afghanistan because the Zagros Mountains are not operable. You cannot take tanks through there. You cannot. It would be a forever war. It would be useless, and if you were to end that war, it would end up with a nuclear bomb, right? And so this, like, really,
Yeah, we haven't even discussed like the nuclear side of that conversation.
Yeah.
This is all talking about conventional. If these were to unfold as like kind of conventional warfare,
do we really want to go to that point? It's just like quit provocating, quit bombing random countries, quit it. Just okay. If a Hamas leader is in Iran, don't bomb Iran. Like, are you insane?
Yeah.
And it kind of comes to the point where like maybe this is what they want.
I mean, it seems
war.
like they're or either they do want it or they don't care if it happens. It's a kind of a win-win for them, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Have you seen the Greater Israel map? Like what they want?
no.
It's like from Kuwait, from Babylonia. Most of Iraq, Syria, the Sinai Peninsula, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, all of
So just
Palestine.
all of the Middle East, basically.
Pretty much all of the Middle East.
So what about
except,
Afghanistan and like
No,
Iraq?
they don't want to go.
They don't
past,
want that far.
They don't want to go past like Euphrates and Tigris,
Okay.
the Tigris rivers.
Right.
But they also don't want to go past like the desert into Saudi Arabia. So it's like this box of the Middle East, like the Sykes-Picot Agreement, basically.
Yeah.
What that was, they want all of that to be Israel,
Just all their land.
the Greater Israel, and these are the nationalists that are leading right now.
Yeah.
Well,
we're gonna talk about the Likud party here in a minute, and just like the fucking zany shit they get up to, heinous stuff. But before we move on, I just want to quote another. This is from. I gotta cite my sources now. This is from. Is this another? Oh, this is from that. I think this is from not the same CNN article, but a different article on that CNN coverage.
This is from CNN.
It's from CNN. Israel's representative speaking at the UN Security Council, Jonathan Miller, urged the United Nations to, quote, hold the Islamic Republic accountable for its crimes, end quote, related to its support of groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. Miller called Iran, quote, the very engine driving the machinery of death and destruction that threatens us all, end quote. Now quoting Miller, those who rarely seek stability in the region should work on the removal of arch terrorists, not call on both sides to restrain themselves, Miller said. Israel has neither confirmed nor denied being behind the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Oh, I guess I did have his name here. Anyway, so this is the Israeli representative to the UN. This is the pot calling the kettle black. The Israeli UN representative saying that Iran is the engine driving the machinery of death and destruction that threatens us all. An Israeli.
Yeah, this is the most ironic, the most oxymoronic thing I've ever heard in my life. Like the country that just bombed multiple other countries and is provocating a world war,
including murdering women and children. Like, let's not forget that Beirut bombing that killed the Hezbollah leader also killed 5 civilians, including 2 children and a woman. Just today, this afternoon, 15 Palestinians were killed because Israel just bombed a school which was being used as a shelter. These are not Hamas. This is just they just bombed a shelter. They're just bombing refugee camps, and this is not news. We've reported on every time that Israel has just bombed refugee camps, bombed shelters, bombed schools, bombed hospitals. I think there are no working hospitals in Palestine left, or in Gaza. Excuse me, the Gaza left. It's just and then to have the audacity to turn around and say that any other country, a country that is basically minding its own business apart from Hezbollah, is the engine of death and destruction.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like,
it's if
calling the machinery of death and destruction, how much death has been caused by Iran, right? And maybe what they'll refute.
The Iranian Revolution of 72, whatever, maybe. 50 years ago, yeah.
Like, how many people actually died in that realistically?
Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
And it says like the machinery, death, and destruction, and then we look like, dude, look at Gaza. You're literally like genociding people.
Just Google photos of before. Just Google quote before and after Gaza.
And just like what the worst that Iran has done is like supply weapons to Hezbollah to defend themselves, or to Yemen to basically defend themselves.
Yeah.
I genuinely just don't understand what they're trying to get to here.
Yeah, it's just insane.
Should we show the video that we?
Yeah. Before we get too far away, let's talk about this video. And so this is a video we found from so this is a video from Business Standard. I believe it's an Indian production.
Yes.
But I will say that I think this was an earlier reporting from a few days ago, or no, it was from yesterday, and they do mention
12 hours ago.
Yeah, they do mention in this video that it was an airstrike. So I just wanted to call that out. They do mistakenly call it an airstrike. It has since been learned that it was that bomb, like we talked about.
Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has ordered a direct attack on Israel, as reported by the New York Times. This shocking move comes after the killing of top Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in an airstrike in Tehran, Iran. In the wake of Haniyeh's death, Iran's Supreme National Security Council held an emergency meeting. During this high-stakes gathering, officials say Khamenei gave the green light for a direct attack on Israel. This isn't the first time tensions have flared. A similar emergency meeting was called after an Israeli airstrike in Syria killed 2 top Iranian military commanders.
That's what we just mentioned.
Both Iran and Hamas are pointing fingers at Israel for Haniyeh's death, which occurred while he was in Tehran for the swearing-in of Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian. Israel has remained tight-lipped, neither confirming nor denying the allegations. However, earlier in the Gaza conflict, Israel had promised to eliminate Ismail Haniyeh and other Hamas leaders following the group's October 7 attack on Israel. Israel's Channel 12 has reported that diplomatic back channels have been used to send a stern warning to Iran. The message: Israel is ready to escalate to full-scale war if Iran or its allies attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, without directly addressing the assassination, has made it clear Israel will exact a very heavy price for any aggression against us on any front.
Yeah. So they say, after we attack you, any aggression will exact a heavy price. Like what? Like what kind of logic is that?
It's almost like here's a great idea. You have brother or sister, two brothers. The younger brother comes up, punches the older brother, and then is like, "Oh, if you hit me back, I'll tell mom."
Yeah,
but
that's a pretty good analogy, pretty apt. Analogy.
I like, and then it's like, but then he's the older brother, whoever punches back, and he's seen as the aggressor, but in reality, it's just like he's gaslighting. Like
100%. I mean, that's just what it is. It's just, and Israel's not new to this. This is what they've done, kind of consistently throughout the last few months in particular, but then the last 70 years in general. I don't know. I don't really have much to say. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Anything you add about the Iran-Israel kind of tensions before we move on to our next the rape story, for lack of a better term?
No, not really. I would just say I don't condemn, nor do I blame Iran if they strongly retaliate. And if a world war starts from it, I don't blame Iran.
Yeah, I'm not like some like accelerationist when it comes to like global conflict,
no.
but I mean, you can't say that Israel has a right to defend itself and then say Iran doesn't, right? So I would say in this circumstance, Iran has a right to defend itself, especially against an incredibly like volatile, like wild card in the region, right? Like we always talk about North Korea as like this wild card that we never knew what the Kims are going to do next. Like they could just nuke their neighbors one day or whatever. And it's like they have never once fired a bullet in anyone. Israel has bombed 5 countries in the last 7 months, right? So like you can't call North Korea some rogue state.
Yeah.
If you're an Iranian or a Lebanese or Jordanian or Palestinian living in the proximity of Israel, your life is in danger from this rogue, wild, mad dog Israel that just bombs Beirut, Tehran, fucking Damascus, willy-nilly. And so I don't know, it's more of the hypocrisy. And I don't know why I brought North Korea into it, except to say that that's usually like this example of this rogue nation. We use that phrase rogue nation of like, and for what it's worth, we call Iran a rogue nation sometimes too. It's like this terrorist state, this Islamic Sharia law, like crackdown, no freedom, like we use words to describe Iran like we use to describe the DPRK, North Korea, but
and then turn around in Saudi Arabia, women can't even properly
but
drive.
Our allies Israel and Saudi Arabia are much worse, and we say nothing. So I don't know, that my point got away from me there, but you get it.
And we're not calling it imperfect at the end of the day. All we're saying is like you have to respect their diplomatic status in this world. You have to respect their boundaries, their borders. You cannot put blame on a country that's been provoked 15 times, and then once they finally bite back, they're the reason for all this to happen.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of bullshit, and it needs to stop before we end up in a full-on skill world war.
Yeah. All right, next story. This one's wild. I kind of I started hearing like just like news articles, like clips about this on social media, on Instagram, and I was like, what is happening? Like, what are we talking about?
Like, I thought this was just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah,
but once I start reading into it more and like looking at like more like
I think no, sorry, finish.
I was just like looking at more videos and like actual more accredited companies like reporting on this. I was just like, holy shit, no, this is real. Like, what the fuck?
I think this story illustrates perfectly the kind of like the mentality that Israelis have toward Palestinians. Of like, there's a quote we're going to talk about from a Likud. He's a Knesset member, I believe. He's like he's a congressman, essentially. He's an Israeli congressman, for lack of a better term. And this like very much, I think this perfectly and succinctly encapsulates kind of how Israelis think about Palestinians and kind of how they view them.
They're
right?
racist.
Yeah, but it's more than racist. It's not like, Jim Crow South was racist, right? But they didn't necessarily want to genocide every black person in Alabama.
This is more like slavery racist.
It's just a complete dehumanization. It's just like they literally view them as like less than human, as parasites.
Look at them as animals,
as absolute animals. And so and
animals have more rights in Israel than Palestinians.
They do, and also I'm going to talk about animals, and I want to give a content warning too for the next for the rest of the we have a short story at the end of the episode, but for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about this, and this is going to have
trigger warning.
Yeah, this is definitely a trigger content warning. This is going to have extreme kind of depictions of extreme rape and violence and bestiality and dogs raping people, and this is going to be very
it's sad.
This is going to be very graphic, and this is going to be a very kind of tough topic that we're about to talk about. So just heads up there. To kind of actually get into it, as of Monday, there's been a large protest happened in Israel. There was reports that there were unconfirmed rumors and reports that 9 or an undetermined amount of Israeli soldiers, the IDF soldiers, were accused of gang raping somebody in a what is essentially a concentration camp. It's like a detention center in occupied Palestine. The actual place is called like Sde Taman. I'll pull up the name of that in a second here, so I can get the actual name of the name of the concentration camp, the detention center, whatever. So the allegations are that 9 or 10 soldiers gang raped a Palestinian man who was just at this detention center. And so the military force went to go and detain and question the soldiers. While, like, I guess word got out that the military was going to detain the soldiers, and so the army and Israelis protested that action, protested the idea that they were to be picked up. So then they kind of escalated, and it kind of like there was some rioting and some protesting, and all in support of rape, that they should be allowed to rape Palestinian prisoners.
Oh, where's that one video? We need to show that video of in the courtroom them arguing for it.
I have that quote here actually. Yeah, sure. So let's talk about this, and then we'll play that video. So this is from CBS. A member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party, speaking Monday at a meeting of lawmakers, justified the rape and abuse of Palestinian prisoners, shouting angrily at colleagues, questioning the alleged behavior that anything was legitimate to do to terrorists in custody. Lawmaker, I'm gonna butcher his name.
Hanuk
Milwitsky. He's an Israeli parliamentarian. He's a member of the Knesset. He's a part of Benjamin Netanyahu's far right party. He was asked by a Palestinian politician, the lawmaker was asked, as he defended the alleged abuse, whether it was legitimate to insert a stick into a person's rectum. And remember, we reported on that a few weeks ago, that was something that they've been reported doing. As they're like putting like hot sticks, and they're anally raping men in prison with hot sticks. That's just something that they do, just as like a method of torture in these Palestinian and the Israeli
basically for shits and giggles. They're just torturing people.
And this member of the Knesset, this member of Benjamin Netanyahu's party, replied to that question, is it legitimate to insert a stick into a person's rectum? He said, yes. If he is a Hamas militant, everything is legitimate to do everything. Yeah, he actually said if he is a Nukba, everything is legitimate to do everything. Nukba just means a Hamas militant. So these people are in full support of raping, torturing, just whatever it takes. Not for like interrogation, not for any, just cause. Just because they don't like them, just because they are less than human. They are cockroaches to them, so they think it's fine to just rape them in prison, beat them. There are so many reports of arms and legs having to be amputated because of they're just in restraint so tight that it just breaks. For so long and so tight they're in restraints. These are children too. A lot of times these are children. There are multiple reports of these gang rapes being raped with instruments like hot sticks. There are reports now that they're getting their dogs, like their military dogs, to rape people, to rape Palestinians prisoners. And I should also remind you that these are not like Palestinian criminals. These people have not been charged with a crime. These are just people that are just being detained in just detention centers. Basically, they just round up Palestinians and put them in concentration camps and brutally rape them and beat them and torture them. These are your allies if you are saying Israel has the right to defend itself. So, as always, absolutely fuck Israel, death to Israel. This is some absolute. This is just crazy. They're fucking monsters.
And it's not just random people or some psychotic, right wingers in Israel. Smotrich himself has basically condoned the behavior of going down there and demanding the release of these 9 or 10 IDF soldiers.
Yeah, it was almost like a civil war was about to break out over these, over releasing these people that had just committed the rape. They think it's so okay to rape Palestinians that the thought of arresting somebody for raping, not even arresting, just holding them for question. They just wanted to interview them. They just wanted to ask them some questions. That caused such an outrage. And this was the far-right national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir. He has said on social media, take your hands off the reservists. These are just, speaking of the men who did the raping, take your hands off them. They did nothing wrong, basically. It's totally fine to rape Palestinians.
Yeah. I do want to mention there was also members of the, what's called, Knesset?
The parliament? Knesset.
Yeah. Knesset. They were there after the protest.
Oh yeah. It wasn't just
there were
it wasn't just military
of
people
the Israeli
protesting.
parliament.
Yeah.
Protesting that they should be able to do whatever they want to Palestinian detainees.
100%. Yeah. There's the reports of at least 2, I think, Likud member. Again, this is all Benjamin Netanyahu's party.
If you don't know, there is an incident right now in SD where the military police come to arrest soldiers who are guarding the Nukba terrorists. The insanity that our country is having around the story is crazy, and we need to stop it. I think that we need to set a personal example here, and I say now, and I call on my coalition friends, I will stand up and I will leave this place. I will not vote for anything until the story and this insanity that there's someone in the prosecutor's office who thinks that this is possible to come and arrest soldiers who are doing the knock. Said like 40,000 words. How about that?
Yeah. This guy says to insert a stick into a person's rectum. Is that legitimate?
Shut up.
If he is Nukba, everything is legitimate. Everything. Do you know what these people did? There are things that you don't do. Is what the
it's crazy.
Actually,
man.
he's not Palestinian. He's a Jew.
No, he is a Jew.
Yeah. Okay. I thought he was a Palestinian. I read
No.
somewhere that it was a Palestinian politician who was the one pushing back on him, but apparently it's just it looks like it's just another member of the Knesset.
Yeah. If you could just notice,
know who
like
that man
for
is.
the people that like are watching the physical video, even if the people that are listening to the audio, you can hear him like yelling like passionately. You can see like the veins coming out of his face that he is so passionate about raping Palestinians.
Yeah,
and
or that he should be allowed, or that soldiers should just be blanket carte blanche allowed to rape Palestinians.
that like why is there a problem? Like he's confused and angry that there's a problem with raping human beings.
Yeah.
That they should be able to do whatever the fuck they want. How far have we come that this type of racism is still real in this world? This is like slavery level racism. This is even back then they had like some sort of rights. They had some sort of be like, you can't be doing this kind of stuff. They had like the 3/5 compromise.
I don't know. I'm not going to defend slavery over.
I'm not defending
No, I know, but
slavery.
I see what your point, but I don't want to like
No.
parse. You know.
No. All I'm doing is I'm comparing this to slavery
Yeah.
to the point where like even with slavery they had a 3/5 compromise. They don't even see them as human beings. They see these people as less than dogs to the point that dogs can rape them. So it's like what worse? How much worse can you get than slavery, right? So essentially, Palestinians and Gazans, people that are a part of Hamas, are literally slaves. They're slaves.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I mean, like especially not assuming like this detention center story notwithstanding, like even just like their movement is controlled, their checkpoints are controlled. Just they need permits to do any kind of like to get water, electricity, like cell service, internet. It's all controlled by
your master,
by Israel. So yeah, like their entire lives,
it's literally slavery.
Yeah, I mean their entire lives are just completely dictated to. They have no freedom. They have no self-control, no self direction. They have no self sense of anything really. Their entire day to day, from
even their work.
Yeah.
Even their work
Their
is
permits
for
are issued,
Israeli companies.
Yeah, and their work, like essentially work visas, are issued by Israel. They're like we mentioned, checkpoints to travel to and from their work are highly controlled to get in and out. And this is primarily a West Bank thing because Gaza is kind of so destroyed now.
Gaza's
the
just
infrastructure,
worse. They just kill you.
Yeah, Gaza, they'll just kill you. And I mean, like there were reports. There was that doctor's report of like that little girl who had like she'd been like double tapped. Like they're finding dead bodies of children and like they're examining them. There's some Palestinian doctors, and no, these aren't Palestinian doctors. These are like third party international doctors that are examining these corpses of children. And it's like they have been sniped. Like they're like perfect headshots on all these kids.
Yeah.
There's like they're having like one in the heart and one in the head of all these children. And so it's like there are Israeli snipers that are just out there hunting children, Palestinian children for sport.
Yeah.
Essentially, is like what this doctor kind of concluded from this. And like, again, these are the people that you're supporting if you say Israel has a right to defend itself, hunting toddlers for sport or hunting children for sport.
Here's the thing. In West Bank, they basically are slaves. Right?
Yeah, and
in
this is all
Bank, they're
Gaza.
slaves.
West Bank's a whole different story. Yeah,
In West Bank, they're slaves, right? In Gaza, it's like Nazi Germany's what they did to the Jews.
Yeah, like a Warsaw Ghetto type
so
thing.
So it's just like pick your poison. Do you want to be like a slave or do you want to be just genocided? And so at what point is this okay? At what point is like does somebody do something about it?
And we've said that every week now. Is like, at what point does somebody say something? And then I saw one report today from some video. It was like, this won't be stopped without foreign intervention. Somebody has to stop it, and it obviously won't. And typically, that would be the job, the quote unquote job of America, right? Like it would be an American thing. It's like intervention. That's what America is so proud of doing everywhere around the world is American intervention. Rock, flag, and eagle. Get those troops on the ground, save these people. We did it in Somalia. We did it we didn't really do it in Bosnia, but like we were involved in Serbia. We did it in Somalia. Like we have interjected ourselves into every conflict for 100 years, and if not us, then who? And this is why we've kind of been calling on like Egypt or Iran or any country in the area to kind of stand up and do something. And I guess that's actually a pretty good segue into kind of our final little goofy story of the night. Is the mayor of Nagasaki sent a letter recently to Israel asking for a ceasefire. This is not like the Prime Minister of Japan or the Emperor of Japan. I don't have an emperor anymore. The Prime Minister of Japan It's just the mayor of Nagasaki, some dude, sent a letter to Israel asking for a ceasefire, and he's refusing to invite them to the atomic bombing reunion ceremony. So that's later this week, or what's the day? It's the 6th and the 7th. So yeah, it's later this week or early next. There's like it's a 40 whatever, not 45th anniversary. It's some anniversary of the Nagasaki bombing.
It's been more than that.
It's been like 70 years. Yeah,
60 years, right?
Yeah, it would have been
59.
It was 45.
Yeah, so 59 years.
59. Anyway, it's the anniversary.
80 years.
80
oh my
years,
God, bro. Jeez,
Yeah.
We can't do math.
We can't do math.
You do
We're
politics,
historians
just
and political scientists, not mathematicians. Anyway, so the mayor of Nagasaki sent out a letter asking for a ceasefire and said that they are not welcome at their ceremony. But here's the catch: is the mayor of Hiroshima did invite Israel. So now you got this weird little feud between the two mayors of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And I think it was the Israeli ambassador to Japan went on Twitter and was like just complaining and saying how this is like they're trying to divide us or whatever, and it's like, you know, like this is a bad look. It's trying to it's just not the way forward for peace or something, which is just again ironic for Israel to say anything about peace. I just thought that was a funny little thing. I just saw that on CNN.
I wonder how hard would it be to get the mayor of Nagasaki on the podcast. I would love to ask him questions.
I don't speak Japanese. I don't know how much English he speaks. I don't know if he speaks English.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
I would love to have
it.
So if somehow, by some chance, you see this mayor of Nagasaki, you are very welcome on our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, let me get you his name. It is Shiro Suzuki.
Shiro Suzuki.
Yeah.
What a fucking based mayor, dude.
Yeah, I said the decision not to invite Israel is not a political one, but is based on our hope that we want the ceremony conducted smoothly under a solemn atmosphere. And I think he's kind of saying he doesn't want like the frat boy Israel to show up and just start like doing keg stands. Like it's supposed to be a solemn thing, and I don't know. Here's what he's the. Yeah, he's the Israeli ambassador to Japan. His name is Gilad Cohen. He went to Twitter to express his disappointment, noting that Israel has attended the ceremony for many years to honor the victims and their families. The ambassador said on social media platform X that Nagasaki's decision is, quote, regrettable and, quote, sends a wrong message to the world. Israel is exercising its full right and moral obligation to defend itself and its citizens and will continue to do so. This is in response to mayor of Nagasaki, Shiro Suzuki, asking Israel for a ceasefire in Gaza. So shout out to the mayor of Nagasaki. Seems like he's kind of based, and also fuck the mayor of Hiroshima. Seems like he's kind of
go down.
Yeah.
Takeshi Yamakawa, an 87-year-old survivor of Nagasaki bombing. Oh, okay, never mind. I thought he was 87 years old. I was like, wow, he looks spectacular. I read that wrong.
No, this is another guy.
Got it.
Oh yeah, I guess this is in response because Russia hasn't been invited and Belarus haven't been invited in 2 years because of the Ukrainian invasion. So like they do, like I guess like these mayors in Japan kind of take political stances based on like the geopolitics of the time. So they have intentionally not invited Russia the last 2 years, and so I guess that's why he kind of was like, well,
can't invite Israel either. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a really interesting story. If you want to know, this is from Kyoto News. So I don't know. I read this on a CNN article earlier, and I just Googled it real quick, and this is the first hit. So that's why I took that.
It's very interesting, though.
Yeah. I just thought that was pretty interesting. And the last thing we can talk about, if you want, is we've been going for how long? We're at 52 minutes, but with a little bit of cuts, we're at 50 minutes. You want to talk about the Venezuelan election? Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk out of my ass. I don't know that much about Venezuelan politics.
I don't know either. I was really trying to look up the opposition party. The guy's name is Edmundo Gonzalez, I believe. I was looking up his politics today and the political party he's involved with, because he's now the guy. The U.S. has now officially come out and declared him the winner. Regardless of the election outcome, they just declared this guy the winner.
Really?
Yeah. The U.S. is like, oh yeah, the U.S. The State Department or whatever has like issued.
Well, the U.S. is wrong because the real winner of this election is Juan Guaido. Everybody knows that he is the only solemn leader of Venezuela. Long live Guaido!
If you don't know what the hell we're talking about, Maduro won his election as president of Venezuela. The guy who ran against him, his name was Edmundo Gonzalez. He's from it's I forget what they're called. There's something Democratic Party. He's basically like a centrist. The party politics are listed as centrist. I was trying to find some kind of their like party platform, and they're basically just like a centrist opposition party to the like socialist party in Venezuela.
Yeah.
They're basically just like counter-revolutionaries. They're just antagonistic towards socialism. And then so like it's listed as centrist, but like I think that means like centrist compared to communism is like I think they're just alt-right. I think they're just like right-wing kind of center-right guys.
Anybody that says is a center is a center-right.
And also if the U.S. if the U.S. is like, no, this is our guy, we're backing him in this foreign election, it's a fucking right-wing guy. Like the U.S. doesn't back left-wing guys. So
remember when there is like news sources that are from West in general, they're gonna be when they're claiming somebody is center, you have to understand that the Overton window that they're talking about is from a capitalistic perspective. So when they are saying the center, they are saying center of the capitalist window. So that's going to be center right. Yeah. Right. Center. Actual center is like social democrats. So like Bernie Sanders. That's them. That's left wing.
I had this conversation with somebody recently. Talking about like monarchists and like how like monarchy is like an extreme right wing. Like that's like like supporting of a monarchy is like an extreme right wing position. So we're talking about like England politics, right? And it's like if you support the king but you're left wing, like you're the left wing of the right wing because you're a monarchist. Yeah. So like it doesn't matter. Like you can't be a left wing and a monarchist. Like that's just those two things are incompatible. It's like saying you can't be a communist and a Nazi. Like those things just you can't. They just it does not compute.
So if you don't know anything about Marxism or socialism in general, we believe in a very non-hierarchical structure. And so when you're saying that there is a king, there is a ruler, you're basically saying that you're now applying that there is a separate class and that there is a hierarchical structure of somebody that rules everybody based upon whatever genetics. Or if he is elected by some sort of council, right? So that is an oxymoron. You cannot have a hierarchical structure like that where you have one guy ruling everything. Everything is at his or her realm.
It's like the first pages in the Communist Manifesto. I think he calls out that specifically is that kind of like lord and serf relationship of like all history is a class struggle of the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, and there's nothing more bougie than a literal king. So like that's why it's just that is just completely antithetical and just incompatible with any kind of like leftism or Marxism.
It's an oxymoron. It's impossible.
Yeah. So anyway, that I just to go back to your point of like calling somebody a centrist in a global context or in a context against somebody like of the Venezuelan government that reads as like a right-wing government, and I could be wrong. I don't know the exact politics of these political parties in Venezuela. I had never looked or I've never researched the Venezuelan political parties of the opposition party specifically before today. So I had 30 minutes of reading about this. So I'm talking out of my ass a little bit too. But from what I read and what I gather and like my understanding of like historical context among U.S. backed, like if the U.S. backs a foreign election, that's a huge red flag. Like you should be very skeptical.
Yes, 100%.
Anyway, anything else you want to say about any other world news we missed? We threatened to talk about that Gavin Newsom executive order in California last week. We said at the beginning of the show we were going to get to it later, and then I realized in the edit that we never actually said. Do you want to quickly mention that? Do you remember what
I know very little about it. From what I understand is basically they're just trying to clear out the homeless population out of California.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom issued an executive order early last week that is just like incredibly restrictive on homeless populations. Basically, I mean, homelessness is the Supreme Court. Excuse me, the Supreme Court ruled not that long ago that homelessness is you can criminalize basically homelessness. Excuse me. Let me see.
Yeah, let's pop up.
This is a video. Hold on, I don't want to watch a video. I just wanted to get the list because I saw a bullet pointed list. I just need the bullet pointed list.
That's good.
Might have to restart this section.
That's fine. Low-key, I kind of want to make a full video out of that Japanese part, even if it's short.
Yeah, we can make a little one.
Because actually, those do really well because even if they only watch 2 minutes and it's a 6-minute video, that's a third of the video, which
Yeah.
is really good for the algorithm. That's why the RFK one is taken off.
Yeah, so it was last Thursday. Newsom ordered different state agencies in California to start removing homeless encampments. It's the like
On state land.
On state land. Well, I mean, but that's
pretty much the streets.
That's everything. Because if a homeless person is like camped out in the parking lot of a Walmart, you better believe that Walmart security would have already pushed them off.
Yeah.
So they're only like, I mean, you don't see these encampments don't pop up in parking lots of private businesses. They're on overpasses. They're on parks. They're in they're on public land. They're on public property, like sidewalks and stuff. That's why they're in downtown areas, because it's just public sidewalks. So if they are on public land, now state agencies, read local law enforcement, has now the go ahead through an executive action to just like brutally kind of sweep them. And if you've ever worked at any kind of mutual aid, stopping sweeps of homeless encampments is kind of a priority. Quote, to move urgently to address dangerous encampments while supporting and assisting the individuals living in them. That's never works. It never supports the individuals living in them. It's one of those you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here situations. And like they have nowhere else. Literally have nowhere else to go. I don't know.
How are they going to get out of the state?
Yeah, I mean, how are they going to get anywhere? I mean, this is kind of the point of like the way we treat homeless people. Okay, I know I've talked about. Now I'll save this. Well, no, okay, I'll go for it now. I've talked about the First Amendment auditors before, like that thing. There is one guy in Florida who he does basically this. It's kind of I like this guy because he kind of calls out hypocrisy, and I should clarify. These people's politics are kind of like shitty. They're like shitty libertarians, and they don't fully understand the material conditions of that which they preach. Because they're like anti-police and they're like pro-homeless, or they're pro like for civil rights, but then they're still like libertarians, and a lot of these people like were at the January 6th, like so like they had their politics are all over the place. They're uninformed. They're just not well read. They haven't read any Marxist theory. But that's a whole other. I digress. The point is, this guy, he takes a sign. He's actually been in a lot of news. He's had a lot of articles written about him because he's gotten a lot of laws overturned, and he's been arrested like many times, but all the charges have been dropped because he never breaks a law. And that's a big part of this, is he takes a cardboard sign, and all it says is, I think, something about homeless vets, like helping homeless vets. I think it says pray for our homeless vets, or God bless the homeless vets, or something. It's an innocuous message that isn't asking for money or anything. And he'll just wear like, not ratty or dirty clothes, but he just wears like jean shorts and a t-shirt, and he's just kind of a bigger bald guy, and he just stands out on public property, like in front of city halls or in front of libraries or whatever, with his sign. And he sets up a hidden camera a little further away, and he's like mic'd up and he's cameraed up, and it's like basically just to kind of bait people into thinking that he's homeless. And he sees like how a homeless person would be treated in that situation, and he is harassed constantly. He gets the cops called him everywhere he goes to get shoot off his land, and then he plays the 911 audio because he FOIA requests the audio, he FOIA requests the body cam from every one of these calls. So every one of his videos has the person on 911 lying about there's a homeless man threatening people on our property. We need the police to come and kick him off or whatever. And the police come and say, hey, you got to go, buddy. And he's like, no, and he pushes back against the cops. And I bring all this up to just illustrate like how we treat homeless people in America. It's just 100%. We see them as like less than, we see them as bugs, we see them as a mild annoyance. And I know when you're going into a convenience store or whatever, and the guy asks you for whatever, I know it's like it's uncomfortable sometimes, but like just don't be a dick to that person. That's like, you'll never have a day as bad as every day for that person. So just have a little empathy and just don't be an asshole. And I don't know. I digress into this whole story about that guy. What did I say? His name was Jeff Gray. I don't remember his like channel name or whatever. But it's pretty interesting if you ever got some time to kill. He's usually pretty polite, although he will push back on private people that come and say you need to leave, and he say you need to leave. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, I have as much right to tell you to leave as you do me to leave, right? This is a public sidewalk. And it's just very funny because he's like, leave, go, I need you to leave. And he'll just like yell at people to go. And it's like, it's not nice, is it, to just be yelled at to go? And he's just illustrating people's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
So these people's politics are questionable.
Libertarians fighting off Karens. It's a strange world.
And like fighting with police. This guy's been arrested constantly, and like he's gotten a lot, because I guess he's from Florida, and they have a lot of like panhandling ordinances, like where you can't panhandle. And to his point, he's like, panhandling is a First Amendment activity. It's protected under the First Amendment. You can say that's free speech. Asking, hey man, you got $1? That's free speech. You can't tell me what I can't say that. And so his argument is like, asking somebody for money is just protected speech under the First Amendment. Whether or not you give me $1 is your business.
Yeah.
You can't make asking for money illegal. So any panhandling ordinance is technically unconstitutional, and that's his whole point. He's like a constitutionalist, and it's like that's his larger point too, is like getting those laws repealed. Like I said, his politics are questionable. However, the point I find interesting about his videos is that it really shines a light on how homeless people, or perceived homeless people, because he's not homeless. He's like a retired truck driver. He's like, and he's got a fucking multi-million subscriber YouTube channel. He's doing fine, but he just looks just homeless enough that it really shines. It like illustrates how homeless people are treated in America.
Yeah, that makes
anyway. It was just interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but I mean, it has to be shown in some way, even if it's kind of like a weird way to illustrate what you're trying to say, and it's coming from a libertarian. He's like, hey, you'll take what you can get if you can open people's eyes up to like how we treat other human beings on this earth just because they're homeless. I'll take his work.
Yeah, and so I don't mind kind of plugging his stuff, because it is like a really interesting thing. And I think like I don't like these First Amendment auditors, like I said, because I think a lot of times they do it in a very misguided way. But I will say that, like, not for nothing, but there's a couple of them that are like legitimately getting a lot of these unconstitutional laws overturned. They are bringing a spotlight onto just police brutality, because these guys just get arrested instantly. They get thrown to the ground and brutalized instantly. A lot of these First Amendment auditors get immediately attacked. It's essentially a pretty dangerous game they're playing, right? Because police are not known for their restraint or for their like cool-headedness or their common sense, right?
Yeah, depending on the place too.
If you say no to a cop, they're just as liable to like crack your head in as they are to like have a conversation with you. And these guys just say no to cops all the time, and they intentionally kind of not antagonize cops. That's not what their point is, to be left alone. In a perfect world, they'd be left alone, right? But the cops always can't. They're like their ego or whatever. They just can't allow that to happen. Anyway, I don't know why I'm defending First Amendment auditors, but it's an interesting phenomenon, and I've been following that movement kind of from the outside, and it's just I've been kind of interested.
If you are a First Amendment auditor and you've seen this,
I don't. There was a really famous one in Phoenix.
Yeah.
He was one of the bigger ones, and he was in Phoenix.
I'd like to have a conversation.
I would be curious. I think I would be interesting to have a conversation just about politics and like why they're doing. That's actually a really good point. We should make a call out. There's a couple anti-police like Instagram pages I follow. I'll like message them and be like, hey, if you know anybody, like, because I would love to have a conversation, because I hate the police more than anything. I hate the police more than I hate Israel. Like, I hate police. And I'm actually currently in the process of like writing like a video about just the police brutality in America in light of the kind of Sonia Massey thing, which we haven't actually talked about Sonia Massey yet.
Yeah.
Maybe next episode we'll kind of do a recap now that all the facts are out, that the body cam is just released. So maybe we'll talk about the Sonia Massey thing. Anyway, and it would be interesting to talk about why they do what they do, because they don't hate police like I do. They're very antagonistic towards police, but they think that there's like reform. You can reform police. They think that it's not all cops kind of thing. It's like, it's a bad apple type situation. And they fundamentally, they misunderstand that it's a systemic thing. And like, you know what I mean? You can't reform your way out of like white supremacy. So like they fundamentally misunderstand the actual root cause of it, but I'd be curious to have that conversation with somebody. Yeah. Anyway, that's a weird way to end, but I'm good to end it if you're good.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, guys. If you watched this far,
I feel like I really just ranted this time.
Yeah.
The last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes, I've been yapping. I'm a D1 yapper. The last 30 minutes, as my kids would say.
Yeah. But
cool.
if you've made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Comment, whatever you can do, really helps us out. For people that are listening on any audio podcast, if you're on Apple, give us a review. Or if you're on any other
give us a rating,
Spotify,
give us a review on
on
your podcast app of choice. We're on all of it. But Google Podcasts removed. We're on Stitcher. We're on Pocket Cast. We're on
Pocket Cast. Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones.
Our biggest downloads come from Spotify and Apple.
It's like 80%, 85% of it.
But if you're on any others, just leave us a 5-star review, or whatever you think is fair.
Our email is open. You can always send us an email. We will respond if you are nice.
Yeah, send us an email, we'll respond, and then we'll kind of chat.
Our Discord is open now.
Yeah.
And we have a Patreon.
10% is Podcast Addict.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, we're 25% Spotify, 21% Apple Podcasts. It's the bulk of our
hit all though. Go back up. Hit all.
Oh, what? Oh, that's just the last 5 episodes.
Oh yeah, go all
Oh,
episodes.
whoops.
It changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be, so the stats are going to be roughly the same though.
Yeah.
31% Spotify, 24%. Yeah, I've never heard of AntennaPod or
So that only
Podcast
makes
Addict.
up like 55%. Wow, that's not
Well,
even
yeah, everything else is like one person is doing all of these different random.
bullhorn.
1% on Amazon Music. Shout out to that guy on Amazon Music.
Woo.
Audible.
I know we are on Audible.
We're
We're on
everywhere.
Roku.
We are everywhere you get your podcasts. So
Yeah. Thank you very
there
much.
you go.
And yeah,
Follow
also-
us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitter, Revolutionary Rhetoric, wherever you get your podcasts. We do have a Patreon. I don't know if we just mentioned that.
Yeah.
We do have a Patreon, a couple tiers. Half of all of our money that we receive, because Patreon takes a cut, but half of all of the available money goes to Palestine. It's a children's hunger relief fund. We'll have, you know what? I'm going to start putting that link in the
Go for it. Yeah,
the show
absolutely.
notes. I'll add it to the main show notes too if you want to start adding the videos. If you're interested in just donating, you don't have to donate to our Patreon, but if you're interested in donating
just straight to
specifically
them.
to the Palestinian
Yeah.
children's hunger relief, we will put the link for that organization in our notes. Discord's open. I think we got everything.
Yeah.
We're an affiliate of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network. Thanks for listening, everybody. I know this might have been a little bit of a longer one. Yeah, we're at 1:10, so we appreciate you sticking with us. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.